Hello. So on today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the implementation process. So these are the things you have to do once you get a new client and you're trying to implement OyAsync to the operations for the operations. Right. So the very first thing to do is to create a company. So to do that, using the search bar, you type in company list, no company list, company list. So this is what your company list looks like. Then you have to create a new company since it's a new instance. So you click on add company over here. So add company brings you to this list. So to this screen, which asks you to put in your company's name, the abbreviation, the default currency, etc. So I'm just going to quickly fill all of this. So I'm going to say our company's name is tests for this demonstration. So the abbreviation is going to be T. Our default currency is Nigerian Naira, so NGN. Then the country is Nigeria. You scroll down a bit, you can input all of this if you are. This is not necessary to input any of this. Not necessary. Then your rights of account should be, it's going to create an account for you. It's not necessary for you to put it in. It's going to create a rights of dash the company's abbreviations. So basically, this is really all you need to fill. The company's name, the abbreviation is going to be there for you, and the default currency. So I'm going to make this abbreviation capital and the company's name capital as well. So once you're done with all of this, you click on save. And that way you have created a new company. All right, so the next step is to create users for this company. So these are the people, users, employees, and users. So employees are not always users, but the employee side of things is more of what the HR human resource guys do. Then users are people that are actually going to use the system. So we are going to focus more on users than on employees. So to do that, we search for user list over here. So you type in user list. So it brings you to this user list page, which shows you a list of all the users you've created on the system. So for this lesson, we are going to be creating one user, right? So to do that, just click on add user, and I believe there is a full lesson on user creation and all of that. But I'm still going to create one all the same. So the email is going to be user1 at test.com. Then put in the first name, user1. Send a welcome email if you will. Then you click on save. So now we have a new user called user1. So the next thing now is to create role profiles and model profiles for user types. All right. So user1, for example, we are going to say this person is a waiter. So I need to create a role profile called waiter for user1. All right. So clicking on the role profile, this place, I need so the role profile helps me determine the permissions that this person is going to have. So as many role profiles as he has, the more permissions he's going to have. If he doesn't have a role checked, he's not going to have the permissions that are attributed to that role. All right. So the module profile is going to be somewhere here, a bit under somewhere. So it says allow modules. So it lets you see if you do not check any of the modules, the person is not going to be able to see the modules on his module list to the left of the screen. Right. So the first thing is to create a role profile. So now we are going to create a role profile called waiter. So to do that again, search for role profile. Sorry, role profile. Yes, role profile list. Then the next step will be to click on add a role profile. Then the role profile name, input the role profile name, and you're going to be allowed to input the permissions for that role profile. So I'm just going to quickly skip to the point where I've created the role profile called waiter with all permissions that are needed attached. All right. So here I have created the role profile for the waiter, with some permissions, some roles checked. So I have the role for employee, for stock user, for waiter, sales user, and POS user. So these are all the roles that needs to be checked for a typical waiter. So whenever you're creating more than one waiter, instead of clicking on the roles multiple times while you're creating the user, you can always just select a role profile, and this will easily help you just check on all the rows you need. All right, so let's just go back to that user that we created earlier. So we are going back to user one. Right, so on user one, I'm just going to set the role profile to waiter. Right, so immediately I said that, you can see that all the permissions needed have been checked. So once that is done, you click on save. Now it's going to bring one error since I have this employee checked and I have not assigned an employee to this user. But let's click on save. So you see, say set user ID field in an employee record to set employee role. All right. So I'm just going to click outside. It doesn't affect anything. The role profile has been set. All right. So for the module profiles as well, you just do the same thing as the role profile. Create a module profile, search for module profile list here, create a new module profile, and no. Again, there's already a pre-created module profile. So I'm just going to select the waiter module profile here. Oh, there's no module profile. Oh, okay. So let's just create a new module profile for waiters. Create a new module profile. The module profile name is waiter. Then I click on save. Right, so here I select the modules I want in my module profile for the waiter. So I'm just going to deselect everything. I'm going to skip to the point where I've selected just the ones I need. So now I have selected all the modules I need the waiter to see. So I just need the waiter to see the selling module, because that's basically all he needs for his to carry out his own operations smoothly. So let's just go back to that user one. So allow modules, waiter, then click on save. And then if you click see you can see that he has been assigned to the waiter module. Let's refresh this. And then we can always change his password here. So if you want to give him a new password, this is where to change the password. Just input the new password and then click on save. Right. So the next step is to create if there are cost centers if there are going to be cost centers, you have to create the cost centers. So to do that, you just look for the cost center tree using this, and then you create the cost centers. All right. So I'm just going to go to the company I created, which is so I'm just going to go to the company I created, which is test. All right. So clicking on test, we see test. Then we can always add more cost centers, or we can always edit this one to make it reflect the true cost center that is needed. If you do not need cost centers in your implementation, don't just skip this entire step and don't bother creating it. So I'm not going to input cost centers. So I'm just going to leave it like this. No cost centers in my for the place. I'm just doing a place that has just one cost center. So that's just main is going to be sufficient. So the next step now is to import the items, both sales and purchase price and purchase items, their prices, and if they have defaults, import them as well. So to do that, there is actually a document for that. So I'm going to be opening a document that shows an import document basically. So right, so over here we have an import document, a document that is used for importing a document used in importing items. So over here we can see the item code, the item group, description, default unit of measure, item name, maintain stock, standard selling rates, if there's a default selling cost center, and if there's a default warehouse, right? So this is what an import document looks like. So this document like this is used to import items. So let me take you through the steps of importing items. So let's go back to our browser and go to data import. We're going to be using our data import tool. So data import list shows you all of the data imports that you've done on the system. So you click on add data import, change this to items, click on item, import type, since it's going to be a new one, it's going to be insert new records, then click on save. Then over here is where you click on download template. So to see what exactly you need to import. All right, so I'm going to be snapping this side by side. So this and this. All right, so if you look here, you can see item code. Then we see item code as well. You can see item group here. We see item group as well. Description is not really necessary, so that's why it's not checked here. It's not really necessary. Then default unit of measure. Default unit of measure, you can also see it here, default unit of measure. Then the item name, which is also the item code. Again, it's not necessary. The item code takes precedence. Then maintain stock lets you decide whether the item is going to be tracked or not. So we can see that here. All right, then standard selling rate is the selling rate for the item. It is a default cost center. So you can every single heading I have here is one of these. So you just select the ones you need and then you export and it brings it for you. It brings it out for you in an Excel format. Then you just have to input the item names and their default unit of measures and their prices, and if they are defaults that you want to set, you set them as well. So that is basically the process of importing items. I'm not going to import any items, I'm just want to show you the process of importing items. Then the next step is to create our restaurant tables and restaurant table groups. So to do that, okay, let me quickly finish this importing bits. So once you've attached the item, you click on save and you start import. So that's basically the process for importing. And the next step, like I said, is to create a restaurant tables, and restaurant table groups. All right, so to do that, you search for restaurant using the search bar. Let me make this big again. Restaurant list. Right, so creating a restaurant list, you click on add a restaurant, then you input the restaurant name. So I'm going to say our restaurant name is Test, and the company again is Test. So make sure you select the right company for your restaurant. So Test, and default customer should be guest. Then invoice series prefix can be anything. So I'm just going to use capital letter T 000 whatever 000. Then once I'm done, I click on save. And with that, I have created a new restaurant. Right. So the next step is to create restaurant tables. Right. So you click on to do that, you use you can either use for the search bar and search for restaurant table list, or you can use this to create restaurant tables. All right. So you click on add the restaurant table. Then what is going to ask you the company the restaurant table is for. So I'm going to say this company is Test. So Test, the restaurant is Test as well. The number of seats, let's say 10. Then you click on editing full page to assign a particular waiter to that table. So the company is Test, restaurant is Test, number of seats is 10, minimum seating is 1, so it's open. Then the current waiter, I'm going to say test user1 at test.com. So I click on this and then I click on save. All right. So with this, I have a new restaurant table called test01, and the person waiting this table currently is user1 at test.com. Again, if you have multiple restaurant tables to bring in, you can always import restaurant tables. So to do that, you click on this, and or you just use your data import tool. So you just find data import list, then you add data import, input restaurant table. Restaurant table and insert new records. So here you download the template. So your template says ID, restaurant, minimum seating, company, number of seats, and you have to click on the current waiter as well. So you export this and then it looks something like this. I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right, so this is what it looks like. All right, so you can see the ID. Let me just snap this to the left so you can see them side by side. All right, so ID over here, number of seats, companies over here, then restaurant is over here, then minimum seating is over here, then current waiter is over here. So basically all of this are these headings. So you're the one that is going to input the tables, the number of seats using Excel. Then once you're done with inputting the data, you import them to the system. All right. So let's go back to the lesson. So the next step after importing your restaurant table is to bring in restaurant table groups as well. So we're just going to search for restaurant table group, restaurant table group. All right, so we're going to create a new restaurant table group. So click on add restaurant table group. Then the name of the table group is tests. Then the company as well is test. Then the restaurant again is test. And the tables that are here are going to be test 01. Right, thank you. Then click on save. Now here is where you have to put in as many tables as you create, as many restaurant tables as you created in the previous when you're creating your restaurant tables. All right, so once you're done with this, you click on save. And again, there's a way you can input this. So instead of adding row and putting more tables, you can always import this entire restaurant table group document. All right, so let me just show you a document that addresses that. All right, so this is what that document looks like. So let me just snap this to the side and snap this to the side as well. So again, here we can see the company, then the restaurant, then the tables test. Then you can see here that we have multiple tables leading all the way to 30, leading all the way to 30. So to import that again, is still using the same data import tool, checking the required columns you want to for your data, then importing them. All right. So once you're done importing, to be there for you to use. So the next step after importing your restaurant table groups is to create your bank account and other expense items in your chart of accounts. So let me maximize this. So to do that, we go to chart of accounts. The chart of accounts we change to our company. So our company is test. Then we are trying to create new bank accounts. So we are going to do that using application of funds, then current assets, then bank accounts. Then obviously there's no bank, so we're going to create a new one. Then we're going to name it sorry, I already named it. So TE, that's the name of the bank account, that's the name of the bank. So TE. Then the next step is if we have specific expenses to create that are not already there, specific indirect expenses to create that are not already there, we can always create them. So there's a whole lesson on the chart of accounts and how to create account heads, right? So the next step is to create modes of payments, and we are going to be linking these modes of payment to our bank or cash accounts, right? So to do that, we're just going to look for mode of payment list, and already you will have some mode of payments already on the system, all right? So cash already, let's look at cash for example. We will see a cash for our test company. Test already has cash dash T, right? Then so we're going to create a new mode of payment called bank transfer to TE. So it's going to be called bank transfer to TE, which is the name of our bank that we've just created. All right, so this mode of payment now we are going to be linking it to our company. So click on add row, then change this to company's name is test. Then we're going to default account is going to be I'm sorry, when I was creating that bank account, I didn't specify what type of account it was. So I'm sorry, let's quickly correct that. So let's go back to our chart of accounts, then TE, then let's edit this. I strongly apologize. Then its account type is a bank account. I am so sorry. Then click on save. All right, so now let's go back to our mode of payments. Then bank transfer to TE, test default accounts. We're going to see that TE shows up now, TE. Then we click on, so what type of, this is a bank transfer, so I'm going to change the type to bank. Then we click on save. All right, so this means for the purpose of this training, we are going to have two modes of payments, cash and bank transfer to TE. All right, so the next step in implementing is to create a POS profile that is going to help you make sales if you are going to be using the app. So to do that, you just search for POS profile or POS profile list, POS profile list, then add a new POS profile or create a new POS profile. So click on add POS profile, and here is where you input your specifics. All right. So okay, let's just start. So I'm going to say the name of this POS profile is test, and our company is test. Then the warehouse that we're going to be using for this POS profile is finished goods test. So finished goods test. Then our restaurant is test. Then default customer, just going to use guest as well. Guests. And this is where we input our specifics. So if you have a cash mode of payments, we can always input that here. So I'm going to say cash, and we input all of the specifics. Give me a minute. All right, so like I said, there's something I forgot to do. So print based on category is so your KOT is print in different KOT print areas. All right, there's also a class on creating POS profiles. So I'll advise you take a look at that as well, but I'm still going to touch on creating this POS profile. So print based on category, then what are we meant to select in this POS or some settings, then this should be allowed delete draft invoice. So the admins will be able to edit or delete draft invoices on the back end, then allow users to edit additional discounts. So the admins will be able to edit discounts. Then same goes here. Then allow partial payment, so they'll be able to partially sell. Allow credit sale, and here is maximum discount percentage allowed. So whatever discount percentage you want the admins, the maximum discount you want them to be able to give, you input that here. So I'm going to say this is 20%. All right, so we scroll down. So at this point is where we input the users that are going to be able to use this POS profile. So I'm going to say people that are going to use this POS profile is that user we created earlier. So I'm going to say just test. User at test.com, user1 at test.com is the person that's going to be using this POS profile. If this is this default POS profile, that's if you have just one POS profile, it's best to just click on defaults for them. So I'm just going to click this. Then the payment modes we are going to have on this POS profile, I'm going to say we have cash and transfer to TE. Bank transfer to TE. All right, so here we have default mode of payment and if it is allowed in returns. So it's best to specify to click on this two, then only one can be default. So your cash mode of payment is your default mode of payment. Then this is an integration with MoneyPoint POS. If you have that integration, if you have a MoneyPoint POS, it's best to enable this integration. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to leave this unchecked. So the next thing here is to allow user to edit discounts. This is not necessary. You don't need them to edit the rates of the items you're selling. Then over here is where we put in the item groups that are going to be shown on that POS profile, on the POS profile. So this is where, so all of those item groups you created while you were importing the items, this is where you input them. The customer groups as well, this is where you input them. This is where you specify them, or else you're just going to be seeing everything. So for this demonstration, I'm just going to show one item group. I'm going to just input all item groups, right? all item groups, full all item groups coming, all item groups. Then the customer group as well, I'm going to say all customer groups, since this is just a demo, all customer groups. Right, so here is where you map your KOT print areas to specify where the items are going to be printed. Then the next step is print settings. So if you want to have a print footer, probably to show your business's address or whatever, and the print heading to show your business name. So this is just to beautify your receipts. Then the next step is your accounting. So all of this is already set for you. Then your write-off account should be write-off. There is already a write-off account created. So write-off T. Then your write-off cost center is probably, we only have one cost center here. So I'm just going to use that one cost center. If you have multiple cost centers, it's best to know which one of them is your write-off cost center. Then apply discount on grand total, obviously. Then the cost center. So if you want this PS profile to be linked to a particular cost center, that means everything sold using this PS profile will be attributed to one cost center. Is advisable that you impute this. But if you have a situation where all your items are being sold in, you want to monitor different cost centers. Like if you have items, probably you have like shisha that is being sold in a cost center called smoke, or and you have food in your restaurant and you have drinks in your bar, and they're all three different cost centers, and you want to know how much each of these cost centers are selling, but you now have a POS profile for each of these cost centers. So you can just have one POS profile and have on your items, while creating your items, you can just specify the different cost centers, the different selling cost centers. All right, so that will help you send the sales data to each of the cost centers without specifying them here. All right, so once you're done with all of that, you click on save, and once you click on save, you click on. So once it's saved, then your PS profile is ready for use. Then the next step is to actually test and make sure everything is working. So you get the mobile app and you test that you can make a sale correctly. Also, you make sure you can make purchases correctly as well. And yes, with that, we have successfully implemented for a restaurant or a bar or a lounge. All right, so thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.